Shalom, family, and welcome back to the Semitic Jew channel, where we read scripture according to its original Israelite context and not to any religious reinterpretations like hermeneutics. Today we move to the next book in our Israelite New Testament series, which is called the Book of Galatians. Galatians is one of those books that is most abused in the entire Bible. It is constantly used to argue these things: whether or not the law is abolished, whether or not there is a replacement theology, and as to who are the Gentiles, and whether or not the faith has erased covenant identity. But when we read Galatians carefully, Paul is doing none of that. So Galatians is actually Paul defending the covenant against any distortion and not destroying our identity. Let's break it down. Number one, who were the Galatians? They were Israelites living in Asia Minor. That's Galatians chapter 1. And no, they weren't white just because they were living in Asia. Galatia was a region, not a city, that was located in Asia Minor. Historically, it was filled with Israelites that were dispersed during the Assyrian invasion or Assyrian colonization. They were Judean settlers, Hellenized Israelites living under Greek and Roman rule. Paul does not introduce God, scripture, or covenant. Why? Because his audience already knew them. He calls them brethren. Why does he call them brethren? Because it is an endearing term that is used specifically of the Israelites. Galatians is not Paul teaching unethnic Israelites who are pagans about God. It is Paul correcting Israelites who were being pressured by their religious authorities. Number two, the real issue. The real issue in Galatians is about authority. It's not about the law. That's Galatians chapter 2. Galatians is often framed as faith versus the law. That is false. The real issue is who has authority to define covenant obedience. Some teachers were saying you must follow their interpretations. You must submit to their authority. You must adopt their traditions. Paul resists them publicly. He even does so through confronting his own brother, who was an Israelite, Peter, because the truth of the covenant was being corrupted, not because the covenant was wrong. Paul never says the law is evil. He says misusing the law is evil. Number three, works of the law. Works of the law is not equal to God's law. That's Galatians chapter 3. This is the most misunderstood phrase in Galatians. Paul says, by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. He's not talking about God's commandments or our obedience to the law or covenant faithfulness or anything else. The works of the law refer to man-made boundary rules that were coming in as God's law, which is Pharisaic identity markers, traditions that were added to the covenant. Paul proves this by appealing to Abraham. Abraham believed God before Sinai, yet still walked in obedience even afterward. So faith brings Israel back into covenant. It does not erase it. Number four, schoolmaster. Schoolmaster does not mean abolished. Schoolmaster does not mean abolished. That is Galatians chapter 3 through 4. Paul says the law was a schoolmaster. A schoolmaster does not disappear. It trains until the child reaches maturity. So Paul says that Israel was at a time and still is immature. Israel failed, and so through their failure, the Messiah restores them. Israel now walks by the Spirit within the covenant relationship with the Messiah. He says something so crucial, that God sent forth his son to redeem them that were under the law. Wait, the Gentiles, they were never under the law. This is talking about Israelites. This verse proves that Paul is talking about Israel alone. Number 5, neither Jew nor Greek. This is a commonly misused expression. Neither Jew nor Greek is about status, not identity. Galatians chapter 3, verse 28. This verse is constantly and overly misused. Paul is not erasing Israelite identity. He is saying that no Israelite is higher covenant status or has higher covenant status than another tribe. So no tribe outranks another tribe. No diaspora Israelite is inferior to Judean Israelites or Judean Israelites who already know about their identity as Israelites. Unity does not mean sameness. Order does not mean that we are erased. Israel remains a nation regardless of where they are scattered. Number 6, Paul warns Israel not to return to bondage. That's Galatians chapter 4 and 5. Paul uses Hagar and Sarah as an allegory, although they are real people. This is about covenant versus religious control, promise versus coercion, freedom versus bondage. Paul warns Israelites, do not trade the covenant for man-made religious systems. This is what Esau did. He famously says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. So freedom from what? Corrupt leadership, added traditions, false authority, not freedom to sin. Number 7, the Spirit produces covenant obedience. That is Galatians chapter 5. Paul lists the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, temperaments. Then he says, against such there is no law, meaning a Spirit-led Israelite naturally fulfills the law's purpose. Spirit and Torah are not enemies. They are always meant to work together. Number 8, Galatians ends with a rule to Israel. Galatians chapter 6. Paul concludes with a powerful statement. As many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them, and mercy, and upon the Israel of God. Paul does not say church of God. He says Israel of God. Galatians ends where it begins. Israel's covenant, Israel's correction, Israel's restoration. So the closing message is this. The book of Galatians, it's not about anti-law. It's not about corruption. It's not about anti-Israel. It is pro-covenant. It's not the birth of a new religion. It is Paul defending Israel's faith about being hijacked by false authorities. If this teaching brought clarity, like, share, and subscribe. In the next episode, the book of Ephesians, the reuniting of scattered Israel into one body. Shalom, family.